Members of the Libertarian Party of Maine, my name is Vohra, and I'm running for president to end the welfare state and end the income tax. On my first day, I will pardon Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and Ross Ulbricht, followed by every single nonviolent drug user, nonviolent drug seller, nonviolent drug trafficker, nonviolent drug kingpin, that's people like Ross Ulbricht, and use the power of the pardon to end the war on drugs and cut your taxes accordingly. Of course, the great news is you don't have to wait for me to be a partner-in-chief. You can be a partner-in-chief in your own right. Jury nullification brought freedom of the press to America, and today we can use it to halt the war on drugs. But today I want to speak to you frankly and openly about our history. For the last 3 presidential election cycles, we have had a choice between political and moral courage and principle on one side and pandering to status culture on the other side. In 2008, we had a choice between Dr. Mary Ruwart, a hardcore, principled anarchist, somebody that I have so much respect for. That was one option. The other option was Bob Barr and Wayne Root. Now, Dr. Ruwart spoke from the principled libertarian position. She didn't mince words. She didn't hide our principles behind fancy rhetoric. She told the truth. She talked about controversial issues like what makes somebody an adult, issues like the age of consent, issues that are so important to our culture and so incendiary to talk about. Now, in 2008, we weren't ready to stand with her. She was ready to fight for our freedoms, but we weren't ready to stand behind her. We weren't ready to have those fights. We weren't ready for that kind of social blowback. We weren't ready for that level of debate. So we took the easy way out. We took the coward's way out, and we nominated Bob Barr and Wayne Root, a couple of lightweight, innocuous statists that would make our lives socially invisible. And it worked. Their campaign was unimportant in the extreme, diluted our message. Bob Barr went on national TV saying that he did not want to legalize hard drugs. And later on, both Bob Barr and Wayne Root went on to endorse Mitt Romney, basically a Democrat, one of the most moderate statist Republicans in the history of the Republican Party. We didn't learn from our mistake. In 2012, we had a choice between Gary Johnson and Lee Wright. Again, Lee Wright was talking about ending the war on drugs, ending the income tax, and replacing it with nothing. He talked about legalizing all guns. He talked about things that would frighten statists. Then we had Gary Johnson, who talked about the revenue-neutral fair tax. Unlike me, Gary Johnson didn't want to starve the beast. He just wanted to find an alternative way to fund big government. I want to defund government. He wanted to fund government. Lee Wright, of course, also wanted to defund government. But we weren't ready to stand beside Lee Wright. So we again took the coward's way out. We found somebody that had a respectable resume in statist culture, of course. Somebody who, while governor, hadn't blanket pardoned nonviolent drug users or anything of the sort. Somebody that had increased government spending. Gary Johnson, by the way, he increased government spending while governor. And so that's who we went with. In 2016, we had the same choice. We had a hardcore principled anarchist libertarian, Darryl Perry, and we had Gary Johnson and Bill Weld again. We hadn't learned our lesson. Darryl Perry, he wasn't as photogenic. He didn't have as much of a statist resume. He wasn't as famous. His ideas were bold and frightening and crazy. Things like abolishing public schools, getting government out of education, ending the income tax, ending the Fed. Things that inspire us but might frighten statists. And again, we went with the people that seemed socially okay with statists. The result was that Gary Johnson and Bill Weld refused to talk about ending the war on drugs. They refused to talk about ending the income tax. Bill Weld had 2 famous statements. One was that people who are on a terror watch list, where you get put without any due process at all, should lose their Second Amendment rights. And of course, his most famous statement was endorsing Hillary. Now, since then, they have both left the Libertarian Party, or at least Bill Weld has formally left it, and Gary Johnson has endorsed him. And today we're facing the same type of dilemma. We have that same option right again. Today it's come in the form of Lincoln Chafee, who's arguably more famous than Gary Johnson. He's been a governor, he's been a senator, as he voted for the Patriot Act twice, he was there for that. As governor, he refused to pardon nonviolent drug users. And that's not because he wasn't good at pardoning. He's a pardon expert. He managed to pardon somebody who had been dead since the 1840s. But he did not have that kind of moral and political courage as governor. He didn't have that kind of moral and political courage as senator when he voted for the Patriot Act not once, but twice. This is somebody that's been endorsed by both teachers' unions, who's voted to increase government educational spending, who's voted against tax cuts in order to increase government educational spending, who's voted for tax increases in order to dump more money into our failed military policy. But he's respectable, he's harmless, he's socially okay. Now, it's no secret to anybody that I have been controversial, and I'm absolutely proud of that. Big libertarian ideas don't fit inside of small statist minds. They're not supposed to. But the ideas for which I've been known or which I've been attacked are actually not ideas that are particularly unique to me. My position, for example, on the age of adulthood or the age of consent is that if you are homesteaded, which means if you have your own house, your own job, your own way to provide for your family, you have every right to start a family. This wasn't my amazing idea. This came from Murray Rothbard, later on developed by Dr. Mary Ruwart. My position that joining a military that's doing something wrong is not okay. My position that killing for the state, if the state is doing something more immoral, is not okay. My position that it is immoral to voluntarily join a military that is doing immoral things. That position, again, not my idea. That's a classical and philosophical rejection of the Nuremberg defense. It's saying that just following orders is not a good enough excuse. My position that we need to abolish all government schools, it's not a new idea. It's a central tenet of minarchism, anarchism, and classical liberalism. A strong philosophical basis is essential for any serious libertarian presidential candidate, or in my opinion, any libertarian candidate at all. The principles of self-ownership that extend throughout our entire philosophy and our entire platform must be deeply and fundamentally embraced by the presidential candidate so that he or she can spread that message. In 2016, Bill Weld cleverly tricked us. He apologized to us for his position on guns. Here's how he was clever. He apologized to us, but he didn't apologize to the rest of the country. He told us he was now in favor of assault weapons, but he didn't tell that to CNN or the New York Times or anywhere else of consequence. In Florida, Lincoln Chafee tried to do the same thing. He tried to apologize to the people in Florida for some of his statist positions, including the Patriot Act. But the thing is, those apologies are meaningless because we don't need a candidate who's going to fight for our positions among ourselves. We need someone who's going to go and fight for our positions out in the broader world. And I've done that. I've done that on national TV and international TV. I've done that on MSNBC, on Fox, on RT, and other major media. I've argued constantly and consistently in favor of our bold, powerful libertarian positions. Because here's the thing. We're not going to get anywhere through lying, either direct lies, lies of omission, or those politician answers that share no information and do nothing but obfuscate. My website is votevohra.com, and I'm running for president to fight for your positions out in the broader world. I will fight for our boldest and most important positions, and I'll do whatever we can to sacrifice the sacred cows of the state. This culture has produced this government. If we knock down this government today, then this culture will recreate this exact government tomorrow. If we want to change that, we need to fight this culture war. Please join me at votevohra.com. My name is Arvin Vohra, and I'm running for president to end the welfare state, end the Patriot Act, end the income tax, end the war on drugs, leave NATO, bring the troops home, and bring freedom and prosperity to the United States of America.